Good evening, everybody. I was checking the time to make sure it was evening. Yes, it most certainly is. At least here it's 6 o'clock. Well, just about 6 o'clock. So, I was in another video making mood. Not nearly as much as I've been itching to yesterday. But I have about 50 minutes until my roommate comes home from, my personal bedmate comes home from work. So I figured I'll do this video. So that way, I try to be as respectful and, you know, because this is our bedroom. It's not my bedroom. So, I was thinking, I just finished doing my house chore that I was assigned. And I know last video I said I wanted to make a video about, talking about kind of like the legal drugs and, or substances, and, you know, how I think, well, how my experiences have been, and, you know, how I think that, you know, I mean, all substances are gonna be powerful. I wouldn't say bad. You know, they can be sometimes used as tools, but, it just kind of depends on what we do with that. But pretty much all of them have the ability to be destructive to some degree or another. I mean, even caffeine. I mean, you can overdose on caffeine. So, but yeah, so I was doing the chore and I'm like, well, you know what, actually, let's, I wanted to make a video, talking about my experiences with, shared sober living. Prior to this, I was, in an Oxford house, for 6 weeks. I mean, I relapsed and they kicked me out because that's the policy. You get 15 minutes to get as much stuff as you can, and then you're done. You're out of there. And then you can come back at another time and grab the rest of your stuff. I think the premise is, like for me, for example, like I had been doing for so long during my adventure in mental health court, was not being fully transparent with my use and the relapses. And so I had drank on a Monday. No, actually, I'm sorry. Drank on a Sunday, and then on Monday, my color was called on the color line. So that means I had to go in and provide a urinalysis sample, a UA. And of course, it was tested for ETG, which I've mentioned that a few times. It's like ethyl gluconide or something like that. It's just a metabolism byproduct from the ingestion of alcohol. Ethanol, to be specific. So I went in and then gave the UA. Also, like I always tried to do, was try and beat the system. And yeah, that's pretty scummy. But you know, that's addiction for you. But yeah, just by drinking enough fluid, but also consuming creatine. And something like with some electrolytes in there, just so that way, because what they will do is when they test the sample, of course they're looking for substances, but they also check the creatinine and I think specific gravity of the urine. I'm not fully sure about that, but either way, they just make sure that it's not likely that somebody had, you know, drank like 2 gallons of water before coming in the attempt to dilute the sample. And even if a sample comes back dilute and negative, they treat it as if it's a positive, because it's likely, it's not always the case, but usually pretty likely that person had been trying to, you know, pass the drug test without, not legitimately, just so to say. So anyways, so I went UA, and then my PO texted me Wednesday morning and had said, hey, you had a positive UA, and I wasn't supposed to go to court. I had been doing well, and I moved to bi-monthly. So that was the Wednesday. I didn't have court, but of course they put me on the docket and I went in, and then things went downhill from there. Oh yes, so the whole point I'm trying to make is, and then I disclosed to the house on that Wednesday. So the whole point of me kind of providing that context was, even if I wasn't under the influence of substances, once the house had known that I had relapsed, I still had to be kicked out and only had 15 minutes. I mention that because my guess, or at least partially, that 15-minute rule is because of relapsing in that moment. And what I mean by that is, you know, let's just say I came home drunk, or I had brought you know, over a 6-pack and I was drinking in my room. You know, that would likely be more triggering to the housemates, because I'm actively under the influence in person, than, you know, finding out someone had relapsed a few days ago. But I mean, still, both are bad, and I do feel really terrible about it. I mean, that's extremely disrespectful to the house and everyone's recovery. It's very selfish of me. And I don't know if I mentioned, but just a little more context. I cleared the 30 days there. They do a blackout of 30 days, which means that you have a certain curfew, and then you cannot stay the night anywhere else other than your bed. After that 30 days, our Oxford house allowed the housemates to spend up to 3 nights, like overnight stays, you know, somewhere else. So yeah, I had tried to keep my apartment. I was so resistant to losing my apartment that, well, especially after I signed the lease, and then a week later, they told me that I had to go to do Oxford housing after treatment. Of course, which makes sense. I mean, because I had just continued to relapse and have positive UAs. They really wanted to provide a supportive environment for me right after my 28-day stay in inpatient. So I just signed a lease, but even if I hadn't, honestly, I would have probably fought hard to keep my apartment. So what I had done was, you know, continuing with my apartment lease, and my parents were helping out with that, fortunately. And then also just doing the Oxford housing until my hope was, you know, like maybe 2 or 3 months, as long as I continued to do well. And then it's like, okay, you can go back to your apartment. But I had spent the night there. I spent 2 nights actually at my apartment in the middle of February of this year. I don't know if I said the year, but this year, for recovery coach training, because the buses from the Oxford house didn't run early enough to get me over to where the classes were, but my apartment was close enough to a line that does do that. And of course, I mean, looking back, and I even knew kind of in the moment that I was setting myself up for likely, I shouldn't say likely, but much higher risk of drinking, because, I mean, you know, I'm still only like 5 weeks fresh into my recovery, and I'm going back, I'm staying at a place where I have no accountability. And I think I've talked in other videos too, like, knowing that UAs, mine was called pretty frequently, knowing that that would probably show up in the next day or two and I'd test positive wasn't enough of a deterrent, essentially, to hold me accountable. But that's why I'm so glad to be in the sober living house, which I'll get to in a little bit further detail, because it holds me accountable and it helps me in my recovery. As much as it sucks to admit, but I'm just not responsible enough or accountable enough in my current situation to you know, be able to live on my own. Plus, I mean, I've been unemployed for over 2 years now, so having a much cheaper rent has also really been beneficial. So yeah, so I didn't intend to kind of go into the history, but I kind of wanted to at least provide a little bit more. So going kind of back to Oxford housing, so that's the rule with relapse. Every Oxford house is slightly different from one another. I mean, they follow the basic tenets or rules. You know, obviously no substance use. Most require, I shouldn't say most, but because I've only been in, you know, one event in this house. But what I've heard is most require at least some sort of attendance to meetings, whether that's, you know, AA or NA or even SMART. As long as you're doing a few of those a week. What they also do to the house, at least I think pretty much every house does, is hold a weekly meeting for about an hour, where everyone has to be in the house at the same time. And, you know, we meet out in the Oxford house, it was in like kind of the living room. Here it's in the dining room. I'm not like it makes any difference, but everyone's supposed to be there and attend. And then things are talked about. With the Oxford house, it was more formal than the house I'm currently staying in. Everyone, well, there's, I think, like 5 different roles that people would be assigned or voted for. And I think that was every 6 months. You know, one was the house president, which did some, I'm not going to break it down too much, but that there was house president. There was someone that was in charge of assigning chores. There's kind of 2 people that were responsible for the finances. One was more in charge of kind of the rent portion of it, from getting that from everybody. And then the other one was kind of for paying bills and managing the rest of the money. I feel like, oh yeah, and then the house representative, someone, I said I wasn't going to talk about this, someone essentially that checks applications online and sets up interviews if there's any empty beds in the house for potential people to move in. So at the Oxford house, you know, everyone kind of took turns saying their bit, you know, like I think comptroller was one of them. You know, they'd run through like the numbers and what money was spent where and how much is left over and how much in savings. And then we would kind of just bring up any topics, you know, any pressing issues, and then kind of hash it out then and there as best we could. With the Oxford house, it's part of their, well, one of their kind of key, like, tenets is the fact that it's a democratically run house. Everybody votes on anything that affects the house, which is super cool. And there's no one that's more, you know, influential or more powerful, so to speak, than any other. I mean, one vote is one vote. And I think, I know for the interview, it's an 80% majority have to agree with having that person move in. If you don't hit that 80% approval rate, you don't move in. They don't take you. I don't know if the meetings were exactly like that either, but I know there had to be a majority vote for stuff to be passed. So a little more structured there. I'll talk about this house in total, and then, because I was thinking about talking about them kind of each part of it side by side, but I think I might just kind of finish off the Oxford house, then I'll move on to this house. Everybody was assigned a weekly chore, and the house I was in, it was a total of 7 men, including myself. So they had like 5 or 6 chores that were done every Sunday. And it would rotate. No person received the same chore 2 weeks in a row. And then because there was more men than there were chores, somebody would get, actually I think it was 2, yeah, it was 5 chores and then 2 people, and of course they would rotate out too, were, you know, had the day off. They didn't have to do a chore. And the chores were, as you can imagine, like one of them was cleaning the upstairs bathroom, one was in charge of cleaning the kitchen, one like in charge of cleaning the living room, vacuuming and wiping down any surfaces if they're dusty, and that sort of thing, and then vacuuming the hallways. Well, and also when the weather would get nicer, somebody would be in charge of mowing the lawn and kind of just making sure the backyard wasn't totally crappy. But of course, I was kicked out before I really got to see that in action. But that's how I was told. And then also another thing as well with the chores. One person who would also rotate, you know, a different person every day of the week. I should say every night of the week, would be in charge of kind of cleaning and maintaining the kitchen. So coffee was provided for the housemates. So, you know, like restocking, making sure there's coffee to go immediately to start brewing in the morning. You know, so just making sure there's water and coffee grinds. Refilling, you know, the soap dispenser, creamer and sugar, wiping down the surfaces, sweeping, mopping the floors, and taking out the trash and putting new trash bags in. I think there was something else. It was pretty detailed, which was really nice because, you know, I wouldn't say I'm a very clean or organized person. But it is nice. I really do appreciate having a at least clean environment that's not too cluttered. You know, my surroundings really influence my mental health. And my mental health definitely influences my surroundings. So, you know, if my apartment's just totally crap, or wherever I'm living is just, there's stuff everywhere, you know, that's gonna kind of bring me down. And then also, it's just not as functional. I mean, if the sink is full of dirty dishes and you have no clean bowls or plates or stuff, then it's like you either have to at least wash one or eat something that doesn't require any utensils or anything, like pizza. So, but yeah, it was really nice, and everyone was really good about cleaning up after themselves. It's not like, you know, there's a huge mess to take care of in the kitchen, or a huge mess on the Sunday chores. Let's see. They would randomly UA people. There's a UA upon admittance into the house. And then actually, I think someone was picked once in the 6 weeks I was there, but they could pick people, and if they suspect you to be under the influence or have been doing something to be under the influence, they could UA you. But they also do random UAs too. So at any point, they could just be like, "Hey, Joe, like, UA," and then you have a certain amount of time to do it, and it's typically observed for obvious reasons, so that way people aren't trying to cheat the system. Hold on, I'm gonna take a sip of water. I'm sorry. That's some good water. Some high quality H2O. So yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell. And I guess I'll save the similarities for last. But with this house, it is much more laissez-faire. It's not so democratic. I mean, we still have a weekly house meeting on Sunday as well at a certain time, and everyone's supposed to be there, and you know, we do like a check-in event. One of the differences is here in this house, because this is not Oxford House, it's a sober shared living house, but it's not Oxford. So there's a house supervisor, you know, someone that's kind of in charge. But we do have it's not like he's just bossing us around, you know. We do have a say, especially during the meeting, to be like, hey, you know, can we start doing this, or blah, 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 blah. And I wouldn't necessarily say it's voted on, but, you know, people can also voice their agreement or disagreement. And then, you know, a decision could be made by the house as a whole, or the housing supervisor. And then above him, you know, so he lives in the house with us. And then there's like a housing manager. I don't want to give away too many details, but this house is managed, or at least it's kind of umbrellaed under a treatment organization or facility here in my city that provides a lot of different services, but, you know, of course, substance abuse or substance use disorder, mental health, both inpatient and outpatient. I don't know about the inpatient mental health so much, but definitely inpatient substance. So yeah, so there's a housing manager too, and then if there's any issues, you know, we can always go to him too. But yeah, but we still have weekly meetings. Another difference, we also have chores here, but they're done twice a week, which I'm thinking about actually bringing up doing it once a week if we can get by with it, but probably not because nobody is in charge of the kitchen cleaning and restocking every night. The kitchen is a house chore, you know, that someone does twice a week. So I think if it was only once a week, if people weren't cleaning up after themselves, or at least refilling things, which I shouldn't say tends to happen, but can happen. And I'm guilty of inadvertently leaving a mess, or being in a hurry and not like putting a new roll of paper towels out when it's running low or something of that sort. But because it's not being done nightly, I think that's kind of one of the reasons why they do chores bi-weekly here. And it doesn't take very long. I mean, they're all really quick. So there's the kitchen, dining room, the hallways, the computer room, living room, and then now that's getting nice out, some of the yard work, which I think from the sounds of it, everybody will kind of be doubling up on chores, so they'll have one that's inside and then one that's outside. Don't hold me to that though. So, and yeah, so like the Oxford house, it rotates, but here, including myself right now, it's 5 men in the house, but there is the potentiality for 3 more. I'm not going to pan my phone around my room, but you could probably see right there, there's 2 bunk beds, with 2 beds, of course, in this bedroom. So, you know, it could possibly be a total of 4 men. It's not a huge room. It's not tiny, but I'm very, very grateful that right now it's just me and another gentleman. It's actually funny. We were an inpatient around the same time, so we already kind of knew each other. But yeah, because there's only 5, including myself, everyone gets assigned a chore. There's not enough people to where somebody gets a day off, or the chore week off, which is fine with me. I mean, and again, they're super easy. I mean, kind of like how I described with the Oxford house kitchen, for example, which I just did. You know, wipe down the countertops. There's no coffee here, so it's actually kind of simpler in some ways. But, of course, clean the countertops, empty the dishwasher if it's clean. With running it, right now, it's dirty. We have a little thing that you can flip on the front of it. But I'm not going to run it until probably this evening, because I want to make sure everyone has an opportunity. And I'm guilty, too, of, you know, having some stuff. Actually... Yeah, so, I'm guilty of, you know, and everyone's really good about not leaving it in their room for like days. But you know, if it's later at night and I eat something, you know, I don't want to have to go out and wash it or rinse it off and put it in the dishwasher, especially if the dishwasher is running. Then you know, have to clean it by hand. But yeah, so I'm gonna run it later. I mean, not like it's really important to this video or this telling of my experiences, but I don't know. Again, I'm just going off the dome. It's just nice to talk. So let's see, that's different. We also have random UAs or the potentiality of random UAs. And in the roughly 8 weeks I've been here, there was one UA, one random one. But like the Oxford House, they also UA'd on moving in, of course, to make sure you're clean, because, you know, you don't want people in there that are still actively using, because that can be triggering to the other housemates, and just simply, it's just disrespectful. You're not respecting other people's recovery, and I know it's not that easy. I mean, people with addiction can do some pretty bad things, but not be bad people. I think they make bad choices, but they're not bad people, and I'm guilty of that as well. So yeah, so that's kind of side by side. What is extremely nice is that here in this house, well, in both houses, there was a $150 move-in deposit, non-refundable, for obvious reasons, especially, you know, with these type of people. You know, you might have someone that, not necessarily, but, you know, maybe more likely to either destroy property or just make a mess of things. But I mean, every place requires a deposit. And then the monthly rent here is $300 a month, which is super cool. That's super affordable. That's not the main reason why I'm staying here, but it certainly is a really great bonus. The Oxford house that I was in, the rent was $450 a month, so still extremely affordable. What's nice is that both places, you know, the bare necessities are covered under, like, as part of your rent. So you don't have to buy like paper towels or toilet paper or laundry, soap, detergent, dish soap, kind of, yeah, those. And, you know, like I said, with the Oxford house, coffee was part of that as well. Here it's not. You bring your own, or make your own, which I'm fine with. I mean, that's the difference of 150 bucks. I mean, I could probably get a drink at Starbucks every day and break even. But yeah, I'm just mostly, well, yeah, the best thing about being here is that accountability and being in a safe and sober environment. With both houses, everyone was pretty chill for the most part. Especially so in the Oxford house, everyone got along pretty well. I'm not saying we don't hear, but there's been a little heated arguments here that I at least didn't experience over at the Oxford house. Not to say that, you know, that can't happen there too. But everyone gets along pretty well for the most part, which is really nice. Because I'm usually a chill person, a laid-back person. I really don't want to come home and then, you know, just be in the midst of some fiery argument or get sucked into that. So, but I guess it's a way to practice conflict resolution. And yeah, so some of the advantages that I've had with living and sober living as a whole is the accountability, like I stated, having a more social environment. Many addicts, myself especially, we tend to isolate, especially during active addiction, whether that's because of the social stigma or all you want to do is just drugs or drink and not even leave your house, which I didn't care so much about the stigma. I didn't care if people knew. But it was just more, I just did not have a desire for social interaction. I just wanted to just alter my consciousness as much as I could. And of course, the easiest way to do that is at home by yourself. So, and I had a 1-bedroom apartment. So having the social environment here is pretty nice. I mean, there's times where it's, you know, and everyone keeps to themselves for the most part. So you still do have that solitude portion, not nearly as much as having your own place. But everyone's, but you know, you might bump into somebody, or not physically bump into them, but, you know, meet, like, cross paths in, like, the hallway or in the kitchen, and, like, chit chat for a bit. And there's times where it's just like, okay, like, I've done enough talking today to people, or interacting, or I'm just not having one of those days where I want to be super social. So that could be a little tough, but, on the flip side, it is really nice too, because, not so much at the Oxford house, but here, a few of us are really good about involving others. So, and especially just being kind of aware of how people are doing, and then intervening if necessary. No, they can't be back from the 8th. No, they're not back. So, you know, like, if there's a day where I'm more in bed and not really coming out or exercising or anything like that, or leaving the house, there's already been times where another one of the housemates, or a few of them, come in and just check in and just be like, hey, you know, I haven't seen you out here. Like, how you doing? And it's like, oh, you're sick, or you're not feeling so great. Okay, cool. But it's nice because everyone looks out for one another, which I really appreciate. And also, it's just nice to have that, you know, make it less of a barrier to do things when somebody invites you. Like, I'm not much of the walk-in person, unless I have to. Like, you know, as if I'm walking to and from a bus stop or something. But I don't just go out and walk for the point of walk-in. But one of the guys here, he likes to walk. So he'll often invite me out, which is nice, because it's like, okay, well, yeah, you know what? That sounds fun. The weather's nice. I enjoyed talking with you, etc. So that helps a lot too. And also, here, and at the Oxford house too, there's been times where someone will cook, like, a pretty big meal, or a few of the housemates will cook a pretty big meal and invite everyone to not necessarily eat together, but be like, hey, grab yourself a plate, and, you know, eat in their rooms if they so choose. That's one thing I like too. In both of these, at least where I've been, there's not really any strict rules about, you know, not having food in your room. Of course, you know, if it got to the point where I have all the stuff in my room all dirty, you know, then there's probably going to be discussion, or if I'm making a mess. But for the most part, if, you know, you're responsible with your consumption of food, and, you know, then you could do that. But anyways, yeah, so that's really nice to kind of, that camaraderie, and just super cool when, and just, I don't know, you feel the love and kindness, at least I do, when, we have a smoker here, which isn't mine, but, two of the guys like to smoke, pretty frequently, not smoke, but, cook with the smoker, and, you know, large portions of meat, or, you know, especially beef, and, so they'll invite everyone else to eat. Or this one guy, he makes peanut butter cookies. We'll make a few batches and leave them out. So it's really cool too, because it's just like, and we also share. Everyone's been pretty good about sharing things, you know, so it's like, oh, hey, Joe, like, you know, do you have some ammonium? It's like, yeah, you know, here's a few. Or, hey, I ran out of my Benadryl, like, can I get some? Yeah, sure, Joe. So it's really nice, because it doesn't always work out that way, but for the most part, everyone's really good about kind of helping each other if need be. One of the guys here drives, And, you know, anytime he's going out, he asks us, you know, hey, I'm going to the store, you want to come with? Or can I get you anything? Which is super cool, because sometimes getting groceries while bussing is a pain in the butt. So, yeah, I think that kind of covers everything I want to, kind of the basics. I just kind of also wanted to talk about the pros and cons at the end there that at least both houses had. And like I stated, you know, every house is going to be slightly different, but for the most part, they follow the same rules. Well, the Oxford does. I've seen there's other sober living houses here in the city that aren't Oxford houses, so I can't speak to how those are run, and I can't confidently speak to speak on behalf of every Oxford house and how my experiences were, but really good experiences. You know, I was just so resistant to moving into one because I didn't want to lose my apartment, but also I had all these preconceived notions of, you know, how, oh, it's going to be terrible, and, you know, I don't want to live with other people, and especially share a bedroom. But, you know, once I had settled into that Oxford house, and definitely this house, you know, I'd come to realize, okay, well, actually, this isn't too bad, and in fact, I kind of like some aspects of it. And I can't reiterate enough. I mean, above all else, at least it's an environment that helps hold me accountable and helps me to maintain my sobriety and work on my recovery. So that's, of course, the most important reason. But yeah, so I guess I say that because, you know, I'm sure there's others like me that are like, oh, I'm not moving. Like when I was in jail, a few of the guys were homeless, and they're like, oh, I'm not moving into Oxford House. So for kind of the same reasons that I had, which is interesting. I mean, I'm not going to judge them on their decisions, but I mean, they would rather be homeless than live in shared sober living, at least how they kind of thought it would be. But it wasn't really what I thought it would be. It turned out to be actually really fantastic, and I'm really glad. I mean, I'm not glad I kept relapsing with mental health court, but in a way, it's really helped me to kind of temper and strengthen my recovery. Is Lance? He might almost be home. Oh, I think he is. So I'm gonna end this. My recovery, yeah, so just check them out. You know, don't be afraid to go to Oxford House or Shared Sober Living House. I highly recommend it. At least look into it. Don't let, you know, assumptions hold you back, because for me, it's helped tremendously. So yeah, so I'm going to end it there. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I will try and put out a video tomorrow. I do like the daily videos, and I do need to start going back to writing some more blog posts. So, so thank you for watching. I hope everyone has a wonderful evening.